Hi, I'm Eliza, and I'm from Scotland. When I discovered my parents had been lying to me my whole life, I was determined to make them pay. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe. My parents were always control freaks. Ever since I was a little kid, they never let me join in sleepovers, not even play dates. One time, when I sneaked over to my friend Jessica's house after school, they found out and crashed at her house like some sort of SWAT team. Put your hands in the air! Luckily for me, Jessica didn't dump me then and there. She actually ended up becoming my best friend. And I'm pretty sure if I didn't have Jessica, I would have never survived my parents' controlling ways. In math class, Jessica and I were complaining about my parents when suddenly the cutest boy in the world walked in. Think young Leonardo DiCaprio meets Harry Styles. I was instantly in love. Jessica, that boy is so cute. I know, I'm gonna ask him out. I looked at Jessica. What? Who says you get to ask him out? Huh? Why not? He's mine! No, he's mine! We ended up catfighting there and then. The teacher had to break us apart from each other. After detention, we found out another girl in class had asked out the new boy, Mark. Truce. I'm not sure what would have happened if Mark hadn't been asked out, but I guess I'm thankful that he had. Jessica was my life boy in those tough times, and I wouldn't have liked to lose her over some boy. We agreed to never let someone else get between us. And I knew we would keep our promise, or so I thought. It was senior year of high school. Jessica and I were the bestest of friends. We agreed for our graduation we'd walk hand in hand. On the night of our graduation, I headed over to Jessica's house to surprise her with a gift I'd made her. It was a teddy bear I had made from scratch. Yep, I stitched it and everything. It took ages to make. I was so excited to give it to her. I walked into her room, but the sight before me made me want to tear the teddy bear in half. Jessica was kissing my boyfriend! You see, in my senior year, I met a guy, Jared. He wasn't from our high school. He was this biker dude who was so hot. Jessica was the only one who knew about him. If my parents knew, they would have made me break up with him instantly. I thought I could trust Jessica, but here she was, playing Star Wars with their tongues! Jessica! You jerk! I launched myself at her and started clawing at her eyes and hair. Girls, stop fighting! Shut up, you piece of dingus! Eventually, Jessica's parents heard the commotion and came running in. They separated me and Jessica. Jared had disappeared by then. What has gotten into you two? Jessica and I looked at each other and silently nodded. In that moment, we hated each other, but we had enough common sense to know not to tell her parents anything. Nothing. We're fine. You don't look fine. Jeez, you're graduating today. Now's not the time to fight over petty things. If they knew what their daughter had done, they would have taken my side. But I didn't want to risk my parents finding out I had lied about my boyfriend. Jessica's parents probably would have told my parents right away. For now, this had to remain a secret. For graduation, Jessica and I didn't walk hand in hand. I actually didn't speak to Jessica the whole time. The next day at school, I sat with a new group of friends. I think Jessica had tried to approach me in the cafeteria, but I ignored her. To me, she was as good as rubbish. Later that night, my parents were having guests over for dinner.
Look at Eliza. She's all grown up.
Yes, we are very proud of her. Do you have a boyfriend yet, Eliza? Before I could answer, my mom butt in. Oh, no. Eliza has never had a boyfriend. She's very innocent. What a shame.
Yeah, if I were her age, I would have asked her out by now.
Alan?
What? It's a joke.
While my parents' creepy guests fought over Alan's inappropriate joke, I stayed quiet. No one could know I dated Jared. You see, when I first mentioned Jared to you, I just called him some biker dude. The truth is, he's a lot more than that. Jared is the head of the biggest criminal gang in Scotland, the Clovers. If my parents found out, they'd never forgive me. I'd be grounded until the day I die. Later that night, I was struggling to sleep. I went downstairs for a midnight snack, but I found my parents talking quietly. I'm not usually an eavesdropper, but when I heard them say my name, I was curious, so I hid behind the wall and listened in.
Eliza could never see Jared again.
Huh? What did my dad just say? Jared? I must have misheard. I know, Jared's nothing but trouble. Okay, they had definitely said Jared. How did they know about Jared? I moved closer to pick up what they were saying when suddenly I heard a loud crash. I looked down. I had just knocked over a vase. I looked up. My parents had spotted me. Honey, how much did you hear? Should I lie? Tell the truth? I heard everything. I hung my head. Go on, deal your punishment. You know about Jared now. My parents looked at each other.
That's all you heard?
I was surprised. I expected more shouting. Yes? My parents looked relieved, but tried to hide their expressions. They failed. Oh, it's all good. People make mistakes. Off to bed now. Huh? But aren't you gonna punish me for... I stopped myself. Why was I asking for punishment?
No, lesson learned. Off to bed.
That night, I went to sleep wondering what it was they were hiding. The next morning, when I woke up, I decided I would find out. I thought where better to start off than their phones. I stole my mom's phone while she wasn't looking and started snooping around. That's when I found out she and Jessica had been texting each other. What could they possibly be chatting about? Did you do it yet? Yup. I kissed Jared. I feel so bad. Is this really necessary? You know why this had to be done. You can pick up the money tomorrow. Okay, thanks. My parents had paid Jessica to kiss Jared. Why? Just as I was about to scroll up to find out more, my mom walked in and caught me. Eliza, what do you think you're doing? I stopped myself. Why was I the one acting guilty? My mom had paid my best friend to cheat with my boyfriend. I could say the same thing about you. You paid Jessica to cheat with Jared. My mom froze. It's not what it looks like. Go on then, explain. If you want the truth, fine. My mom looked like she was having a really hard time getting out the words. Jared is... What? Jared is your brother! I gasped. What? Mom explained. When she and my dad had first gotten together, they had a baby by accident. They couldn't afford it. They were so poor they couldn't even afford food, so they had to give the baby to an orphanage. They had always kept track of the baby, though, and found out it had been adopted by another family. Then, a distant relative had won the lottery, and my parents got a huge share of the sums. They had me, and they figured it was best to keep their son with his adoptive family as to not confuse him. I always kept track of him, though, and one day I found messages on your phone from this Jared guy. I located him and discovered that he was my son. He is my son. I felt like my brain was going to explode. I didn't even want to think about how gross this was. Jared was my brother, but he was also my ex-boyfriend. Why did life have to be so confusing? I decided to change my whole look after that. I didn't care about pride. I wore the shortest shorts and the most revealing tops. This was my way of defying the world. I dressed so bad, my parents wanted to cry whenever they saw me. I didn't care though. I was confused, and this was my way of dealing with it. But then my parents thought it would be a good idea to be models themselves, so they could embarrass me out of dressing the way I did. My dad became a butt model. My mom became a chin model. It was so weird. Their photos were all over social media, and my classmates teased me about it all the time. I hated it. I considered changing my looks just to please my parents, but my stubbornness overcame my embarrassment. That is, until Mark came along. If you've forgotten, Mark was the cute boy Jessica and I fought over towards the beginning of my story. Well, Mark had moved away for a while, but now he was back in town. Now, we were attending the same college. When he first entered class, he looked at me with shock. Eliza, is that you? At first, I didn't recognize Mark, but then I realized who it was. Oh no. I was fine with these other people seeing me in these clothes, but not Mark. He was so sweet. I didn't want him thinking I was some bad girl who was some sort of player or something. Yeah. So what? It's good to see you again. Who cares? I don't even remember your name. I forgot to mention, this new look of mine also came with a new attitude. Mark looked disappointed. He walked away. I watched him leave. Life was so confusing. I continued my ways until one day I decided to ask Mark out. Life was short. My other tried romance had failed miserably with Jared. Maybe it would work out with Mark. So I did it. I asked him out. But this was his response. You've changed. I was suddenly angry. What? Is it my clothes? So what? A girl can't dress how she likes? Mark waited patiently for me to calm down. No, Eliza, it's not that. It's your personality. You used to be kind and funny and thoughtful. I actually used to have a crush on you back in high school, but now you're mean. It's not attractive. And with that, he walked away. I was shocked, but I realized he was right. It was time for me to go back to my roots. The next day, I came back in my normal clothes and my normal attitude. I asked Mark if he'd consider my offer again.
How about over dinner?
I smiled. That sounds great. We had dinner and things were going well, until suddenly Jared stormed up to our table and punched Mark in the face. Jared! Eliza, please take me back. I'm in love with you. I was frozen. What? I'm in love with you! But Jared, you're my brother! Jared was frozen this time. What? I explained everything to Jared. He looked disgusted. He walked out of the restaurant without another word. I helped Mark to his feet. Sorry about that. Can we continue? No way! Sorry, Eliza, but you're not worth it! Mark walked away too. I sat there alone. I suddenly got a message on my phone. It was from Jessica. Listen, I'm in love with you. Can we talk? I sighed. My life was so complicated.